this very spot here. I've been standing here for hundreds of hours over the last 3 months. Why, you may ask? That's a sparrowhawk there. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's actually a sparrowhawk. I can't see it, but I got a little glimpse of it between the branches. But it's probably, I'm guessing, it's a young bird that is calling its parents for food. The chicks fledged a little while ago, a few days ago, and are not yet independent. They still require feeding by the parents. But they will be in roughly the area of their nest. I heard one earlier up here about half an hour ago, but at the moment it's up in this direction. Let's just see if a parent bird comes back. Should we, do you want to have a bit of confirmation of what it is? I'm going to get out Merlin. This is Merlin. So Merlin identifies birds by their call. Let's see if Merlin can pick it up. Merlin's a free app you can download, by the way. Calling anymore, unfortunately. I don't think there was enough for Merlin to pick it up, and also I was probably talking a bit too much. I'm going to try again later. Yeah, Merlin's picked it up. I don't know if you can see that. The Eurasian sparrowhawk. It's now the 7th of July, and for the last 3 months, well, since the middle of April, I've been coming to my local woods here, near a very busy road, and observing sparrowhawk. Sparrowhawk are a small bird of prey in Britain, and one of the most common birds of prey in Britain. But unlike the kestrel, which is easily seen out in the open hovering, the sparrowhawk is a reclusive bird that hangs around deep in the woods, and so not many people actually get to see sparrowhawk. And that's kind of, in a way, why I love photographing sparrowhawk, because you get a little insight into their world, which is it's quite difficult to follow, but it's quite fascinating once you get into it. The tree that they were nesting in is kind of that one there, and sparrowhawk are a protected bird in the UK, which means that you mustn't disturb the nest. Photographing them from a distance with a very long lens, so as not to disturb them. But they have now left the nest, and the young are still dependent upon the parents for food, and they have been, as well, my latest last observations, they have been hanging around in the trees at the back here, where the young, they're not really properly flying yet. They can sort of flutter between branches, but they've been up in those branches in that tree where they've been, the parents bring food back for them, and then they call the parents to tell the parents where they are, and where I've been able to watch the male come back with prey, which he comes back and calls the female from a nearby tree, and she comes to collect the prey, and she takes it back to the nest and rips it up for the chicks. Of course, sparrowhawk predominantly predate on small birds. So sparrowhawk is a fairly small bird of prey, and so, as the name implies, they catch birds like sparrows, and that kind of sized birds. The male is smaller, like all raptors. The male is smaller than the female. So when the female's hunting, she'll catch slightly larger birds, but the male catches quite small birds, starlings, tits, sparrows, that kind of thing. The female might go up to blackbirds and maybe young crows or birds are slightly larger, but they hang around deep in the woods, and so photographing them is difficult. So when I first came across them, I was photographing them in April, when there were hardly any leaves on the trees. Of course, as very quickly the trees get covered in leaves, and so you get to see the birds coming and going, but most of the time you're just getting fleeting glimpses of them between the branches and no clear shot. So the few pictures that I've got, I've been very happy with, but they have been as a result of, I'm not exaggerating, but they've been as a result of literally hundreds of hours hanging around in this spot up here, looking for sparrowhawk. So, and you do just stand there like a zombie, daydreaming and waiting for something to happen. And most of the time, when the male comes back with prey, you can hear them up in these trees. The male calling for the female, telling her he's got food, but you can't even see where they are, but you can hear them. But occasionally, I did manage to get glimpses on these branches just here. My sort of vantage point is over the back there, and on these branches here, a few times both the male and the female landed. So what were the highlights of my observations of the sparrowhawk over the last 3 months? Chicks were not visible, obviously, when they were small. Very difficult to see them in high up in a tree when they were small. But once they got a bit bigger, they were, being white and fluffy, they were quite easy to spot with the binoculars. It was very difficult to photograph. And then as they got older, I started to get slightly better pictures of them, and was fascinated to observe the comings and goings of the male coming back with food, but also both male and female parents had to fend off intruders, mostly magpies, the odd crow, seagull, but probably the most dramatic moment was when a buzzard flew over and the female had to go up and mob it and chase it off. Of course, a buzzard is quite a bit bigger than a sparrowhawk, and quite a threat to the nest and the young. So that was quite a highlight. But then after just after the chicks had fledged, I observed the nest being completely mobbed by about 6 or 7 magpies, who I presume were turning it over, looking for scraps of food left over from the sparrowhawk kills, and the bits and pieces that had been left uneaten by the sparrowhawk. So the whole thing was every day there was something interesting and something different to observe. So it was quite dramatic at times, and I must admit, watching them every day, I started to get a little bit protective and was quite worried that they'd make it and that they'd be okay. But as it turned out, these parents were good parents. The chicks looked well fed, and the 2 chicks were raised, and so a successful season here in the woods in London for this particular excuse me, for this particular Sparrowhawk couple. Great to watch.